right, hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from Sales Pop, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from well, kind of a gloomy San Diego because we've been having rain, which is a good thing. And today I'm delighted to be joined at the other side of the country in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina by Todd Schuchart. How you doing, Todd?
I'm good, John.
Yeah.
Sorry it's gloomy there.
No, it's a good thing because we needed the rain, with the fires and all that. So
Oh, yeah.
it's a good thing. And Todd's a certified goofball, which is that's a first for us. We've had lots of certified people on this show, never a certified goofball. We've also had a lot of people say that I should be certified, but that's another uh, conversation entirely. And an expert in life insurance sales and lead generation, leading razor ridge leads, deep understanding of the industry, focus on developing innovative solutions for agents, including conversational sales training and AI driven sales tools. And we're going to talk about today is that everybody can sell. So let's dispel this idea of like salespeople are born, or salespeople are, if you're not gregarious and outgoing and love to burst into a room of 1,000 people and announce yourselves, you can't be a salesperson. It says everybody, even you. So stop trying to be sales and start having real conversations with intent. So Todd, just elaborate a little bit on that, because there is some people still labor under this illusion that there's only one type of salesperson, or you are born a salesperson, or you have to be extremely outgoing, and all of these other things that we know to be untrue. But those
Mm.
those stereotypes still persist in many ways.
It's interesting, John. Once somebody stops trying to be sales
Hmm.
and just have a really great conversation with the lead, listen to understand, not to sell something, their sales skyrocket. It just
Hmm.
goes through the roof. And I think genuinely everybody can sell as soon as you stop trying to.
Right.
So, and I take this back to youth, right? Think about when you were a kid and you wanted to stay out late on a Friday night past
Yeah.
curfew. And mom's like, no. And you're like, all right, listen, here's what I'll do. I'll do the dishes, I'll mow the grass, and I'll do something else. And all of a sudden you're value stacking, right? Mom goes,
Mm.
you can stay out late.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You sidestepped, you rebutted, you closed, you came back with more value, you reiterated the value statement to mom to build the more of a value in the proposition. The value outweighed the cost for her, so it
Yeah.
was worth it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too about going back to when you were young, because this often happens in negotiations. Is the best negotiators are small children,
Yes.
because they will say, "Hey Todd, there's a brand new ride at Magic Mountain, and I want to go on it." No, you can't. But it's the best ride. It's a new ride. It's the most fantastic ride. No, it'll be really enjoyable. It's a great ride, and they just stick to the one argument, right, about it. Whereas we get into argument dilution, where we go, well, that didn't work, and we say, well, it would be a great outing, we could also go here, we could do this, and we completely dilute our negotiation. Whereas kids are like, no, I'm going to stick on this one, and I'm going to tell you 5,000 things about why this is the right thing to do for this one thing, but I'm not going to dilute my argument.
Yeah, and I think the other thing they do that's really great is they're not afraid to just go, "Why?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about?" And adults, we get to this adult age, and it's like we're supposed to know everything.
Mhm. Yes.
There's so much power in why.
Hmm.
Why are you here? Why are we talking? Why did you say that? What did that even mean? Right? And then just shutting the hell up and listening.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that is so difficult for people, especially today, is this concept of listening, and not just listening, right? Because
Mhm.
you can. I mean, it's a physical. Hearing is a physical activity, right? It's just whatever comes into your ear. Listening and actually trying to understand and taking the time to dive. That's an active thing to do, and because we're so distracted today by our little narcissistic friend and all the other things, that it's very easy for us not to really listen to people.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's the deal. It's listening to understand,
Hmm.
right? And the thing I think that salespeople need to focus on more than what do I say when they say is what is your product? how well do you really truly understand what you're selling?
Hmm.
Because if I'm listening to understand, then I'm going to understand how you fit into what I'm selling. And now it goes back to youth, right?
Yeah.
Listen, John, you have this need, I have this thing. So let's talk about how these work together. It's
Hmm.
no longer I'm selling you something. You and I have crossed the path now to problem solving,
Right.
and we're working on a solution together. It's not sales anymore.
Right. And I think the other part too is because we go back to like how anybody can sell, if you are able to listen and have good conversations, it's also that element of curiosity, right? You
Mhm.
can't really listen and understand and have good conversations if you're not actually curious about the situation. You're curious about what's going on with Todd, what's going on with this company, what's going on with the circumstances. If I'm what's going on with the industry, if I'm not curious, I'm never going to really listen properly. I'm never going to ask good
Mhm.
questions. And curiosity, and to be honest, going back to the stereotypes, if you're very gregarious and outgoing, you're probably more used to listen to your own voice than actually being curious about others.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Which is why we see nurses and teachers to make really good salespeople,
Hmm.
right? They've got that kind of they're listening with an ear for diagnosing, right? And they're asking questions to help them better understand the situation that's in front of them so that they can
Hmm.
get where they need to be.
Yeah. And one of the things, so you do a lot of work with life insurance agents and companies, right? And let's face it, I mean, that's not an easy sell off. People have perceived, notions about that. So how do you help? I mean, a group like that is, probably unfortunately for them, probably start a little bit in deficit because we have, as consumers, we have preconceived notions about insurance sales.
Yeah, the insurance space, Johnson, an interesting transition because
Hmm.
the pandemic took hundreds of years of practice and completely turned it on its ear. So
Right.
you have a couple different types of personalities right now in the space. One is the dinosaur that's still trying to be relevant and hold on to the in-home selling and
Right.
I'm going to teach you how to do this because that's how we used to do it. Used to do it doesn't work.
Mhm.
Consumers today don't consume like they used to.
Yeah.
I don't want you coming to my house. That's the last thing I want. And I don't want to go to somebody's. It's the
Yeah.
last thing I want, right? So, I think that what we see a lot of is it's helping with reprogramming and then understanding that if you're going to draw a line in the sand and refuse to adopt and adapt, then you're going to be left standing next to the guy that was the last one
Mhm.
to sell buggy whips, right? It's
Right.
just where you're not going. And the beauty is, even when we've been in the space now for 5 years, we
Mhm.
came in right at the pandemic. I see people rolling tech stacks out now that our pandemic would have been awesome,
Yeah.
but because they don't have any other componentry that's relatively new, like AI and all the wonderful tools that
Mhm.
we have, they're rolling out outdated pieces. So even at that level, they're not able to catch up. So I think that the best thing that the insurance industry can do is to bring people in from that aren't from the space, right? They
Yeah.
need more of that.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I worked at a company one time which was a franchisor and it had this franchise network. And literally, uh, once you got a job at any one of these franchisees, right? You could move around through the franchise network regardless of how good you were, right? Because
Yeah.
they always deferred to hiring somebody who knew the business as opposed to somebody from the outside who couldn't possibly learn the business, right? So you had a lot of these people who weren't very good, but they knew the business and they got jobs over. And I think it's the same thing here is bringing, as your industry goes through some transition, bringing people from outside that industry is always a good idea.
Especially when something's moving at the speed of tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And that's where it is. They're kind of that I think the insurance space is one of the last great dinosaurs. You
Mhm.
had media went through it the last 20 years. We saw newspaper evolve. Now we're seeing local broadcast evolve and they're adapting or they're dying. And
Mhm.
it's really interesting to see this kind of archaic fight still going on in the insurance space,
Yeah.
as the old guard is holding on for desperate, just truly out of desperation, and the new guard's coming in with, hey, listen, life can be a lot easier. Let's
Yeah.
implement some tools and some structure to this thing, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, what do you think? As you help folks like this, what do you think the characteristics of the successful salesperson in this industry is going to be going forward? What are some of the ones that are going to come to the fore more?
The person that if you take it back to the kids, this is the kid that licks the flagpole. It's the
Right.
kid that that drinks milk with a pickle. It's the person that's not afraid to step out and try the weird thing or the new thing. So early adopters are always going to do well because they'll
Right.
be ahead of the curve. They'll be your leadership moving forward. Late adopters, as long as they're willing to try, are going to be great. The
Right.
thing about technology that most people need to understand in today's world, you can't break it. It's come so much farther than it used.
Yeah.
It's you open the wrong website back in the day,
Mhm.
and there goes your computer, right? It's
Yeah.
it's not the same anymore. I mean, you can't break it. So I
Yeah.
think that not having fear and just understanding that it's uncomfortable. The
Yeah.
computer's uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable,
Yeah.
right? And the only way it's going to do that is by putting your fingers on it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the
You
player,
can't break it, but it can break you if you do, if you
yeah,
don't if you don't adopt a better attitude.
100%. And it's a player's market now. So you've
Mm.
got to go out and give yourself permission to mess it up. You got to laugh about it. You got to find your rhythm and your voice and how to use these tools, really.
Yeah. And tell me how is AI impacting insurance sales?
Yeah. So I think it's one of the untapped kind of elements right now in the space because, again, I think the industry is so big that it's been so focused on initially digitizing a paper process,
Yeah.
and that's a big beast, right?
Yeah.
Because these aren't small operations, they're big outfits doing these things, so it takes time. So I think that AI is going to start on for us, it's starting on the lead nurturing side.
Mhm.
We're using it as a tool to leverage lead nurturing so agents can breathe a little bit more. They can
Right.
find some time in their day to do other things, maybe eat lunch. And I think where it's heading is the deal, John. I mean, this is endless, right? But I see big applications for it in sales training and development. I
Yeah.
see big applications for it in lead nurturing, pre-sale. Um, I think as the avatar space gets better, client engagement opportunities are going to be
Mhm.
unparalleled. I just think there's things that we don't even understand yet. But for me, it's a sales enablement tool. It's a lead ROI maximizer. And at some point, it's going to be something that we can even use to close skills gaps on the human side. So I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I absolutely think it's a tool that is unbelievable in what it can do now. Imagine what it'll do in 3 or 4 years from now.
Yeah, 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Um, but no, exactly as you say, and I think we're seeing this across the board, and I think it'll happen in this insurance industry as well. Is that at the end of the day, AI is going to do a lot of things better than you, but a lot of the things that it's going to do are things that you probably didn't really like doing anyway. The things that took away. At the end of the day, right? You want to be developing relationships with prospects, right? Human, relationships. You want to be and with existing customers, you want to develop more deeper relationships. You want those to maybe expand to be long-term customers of yours. All of that stuff that's very human that people are craving, particularly after the pandemic, that AI can take away the other stuff. And in
Hmm.
fact, rather than, as you said, rather than be afraid of it, you should embrace it and say, this is going to allow me to do the things that I'm really best at.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in my mid 50s now, and I hate when I hear somebody say, "Yeah, but I'm old." I'm like, "Oh, well, how old are you?" "Well, I'm in my early 50s."
Yeah.
Come on, man. We
Yeah.
got so much time in front of us still. Get in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody
Go.
knew AI 4 years ago. We're all figuring it out together. So get in, jump in and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the things it can do for you. Why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you take advantage of it? And the other thing, Todd, I wanted to ask you about is sales process. Right? It is one of the things that I still think today some organizations, some industries still do very poorly is defining a proper sales process and then revisiting and revalidating it as behavior changes. Is that something that you see in the insurance industry? Is that outdated processes? Because you mentioned earlier, I
Mm.
mean, digitizing paper processes or analog processes, I mean, it sounds good, but did they check to see whether those processes were still relevant? Could they cut them out? Could they make them more
Yeah.
efficient?
It's interesting you say that because I think the focus was so spastic because we were reacting, right,
Hmm.
to not really adapting to the digital world until we absolutely it was too late, right?
Hmm.
So they're in catch up mode for sure at this point. But I think from an agent's perspective, the thing that they need to understand about CRMs and sales enablement tools are what they really truly do for you.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about looking good in front of your customer or
Hmm.
6 months from now, I remember that you have nunchucks or that I remember your dog's name or any of
Hmm.
that's all wonderful. But the thing that I see in our space is and probably in a lot of sales scenarios is agents are looking at lead cost as their analytic.
Hmm.
And it's like back in the day when we used to say, "Oh, well, how many clicks did you get?"
Yeah.
It's such an archaic number, right? It doesn't
Hmm.
really mean anything. So the thing that I like most about the systems are that we get to utilize micro commitments within the sales process in the CRM pipeline layout. And that allows us to do a couple things. One is I can definitively close my skills gaps. You can close yours because they're usually not the same.
Hmm.
The other thing it allows us to do is allows us to look at the conversion. What is my
Yeah.
cost to acquire a policy?
Hmm.
And a lot of times, and this is really, you probably know this, so this is more for the listener, but a lot of times we look at those $4 leads and we're like, this is it. And it takes you 200 of them to get a deal across the table. And now your cost of acquisition is 160 bucks,
Hmm.
whereas the $50 lead, it took you two and
Yes.
your cost of acquisition is 100, you spent way less time grinding it out and you actually spent less money. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that really I feel like all of the tools are going to start to open up the eyes to holy cow, if I want to make 120 grand this year, I know my average sale volume, I can just do some simple math and get to I need to invest this much in leads because I know what my conversion numbers
Yeah.
are, because my CRM is helping me drive that data. And then all that feeds back into your leads and get you leads with a higher propensity to close, and the whole thing just feeds itself. And you know that it wasn't that easy to do this a handful of years ago.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I love what you just said that about. I love that about the $4 leads, and then you buy a bunch of them. Those false economies where we think we're. It's like when my wife said, "Well, I got this, but it was on sale," and I'm like, "But we didn't need it."
Yeah,
So
like you go
great,
to
you
Kohl's
sold.
and they're like, "Oh, you saved 80 bucks." No, I didn't. I spent 300.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I hope she's not listening. Anyway, no, um, but yeah, and I think the other thing too is that I think the savvy salespeople have come to realize that process is your friend, not your enemy. And as
Mm.
you said, and when you have a CRM and you have things laid out properly, and you can look at whatever stage, and you can see, yes, I have done all the right things in this stage, and therefore I'm able to move it on to the next stage, and this is a logical
Mhm.
progression. And those are the most high performing salespeople. So I think, yeah, having a really well defined sales process is critical.
Oh, 100%. And breaking it down in the micros, right? And then
Mhm.
tracking it just by utilizing the system. Here's the problem, when CRMs came out originally, management got their hands on
Of
them.
course.
And it became this thing where we just
Yeah,
grinded you into the ground with our thumbs, right? And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and when I first, so prior to being in insurance and all this wonderful things that we do today, I built and rebuilt sales teams. One of the first things I would do is I'd pull all of their contact data out of their CRMs and put it in a spreadsheet. We'd alphabetize it, and you take a 25,000, lead database, and you go, oh, well, there's 422 that say XYZ7, where the sales rep is like, oh, okay, you want me to do this? Just hit this
Yeah.
KPI. So you leave me alone. They start making stuff up, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And from a salesperson's perspective, the CRM was developed to make you look good. Management does what management does. They take those things and they ruin it.
Yeah.
So from a salesperson forward, what I would say is utilize that tool for what it's really designed for you to look good in front of your clients, to
Yeah.
to be able to pinpoint opportunities to make your skills better, and to really understand the numbers in your business so you can scale with certainty.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, if you're a salesperson and if your CRM is not providing value to you as a salesperson, like you said, making you look good in front of the customer because it's serving you what you need to, then I would go to your management and say, we need a new CRM. There's
Mhm,
and you're correct. I mean, most legacy CRMs were built from a command and control perspective,
mhm.
and just like you, when I ran, I ran some organizations and sales teams, and if I had $1 for every time I said to somebody, "Did you put it in? Did you put it in the CRM?" and they say, "Listen, John, do you want me to do data entry or do you want me to sell?"
Right. Yes, is the answer.
Yes is the answer, and they go, "Well, there's only so much time in the day,
Uh-huh.
so, yeah." But
Oh,
yeah, I think nowadays, things have changed with the CRMs. Obviously we have one that's very much sales centric. But before we go, Todd, what would be one last piece of advice you would give to, say, a salesperson going into, it's the start of 2025, if they're in the insurance industry, what is one thing they can do to distinguish themselves from the pack?
yeah, boy, that's a simple ask, but that's a big question. The one thing that they can do, I think truthfully, if nothing else,
Mhm.
give yourself permission to mess some stuff up.
Love it.
In this space, in the digital world, wrong is right. The faster you can fail, the faster you can
Yeah.
optimize. And I think that's what digital has taught us. It teaches us how to optimize everything, which means everything is optimizable.
Yeah.
Your sales processes, the whole thing. So that would be it. Play.
Play,
This
yeah.
this is play, and understand you're going to screw it up. You can't break it, but go in and mess up. You're going to burn a lead. Leads get burned. I've
Mhm.
been doing this for longer than I care to mention. I still screw leads up
Yeah.
on the daily. It happens. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it. So
Yeah.
understand that and just have some fun, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love permission to fail, and if you're gonna fail, fail fast.
Oh, wicked fast, right?
Yeah, well, listen, this has been great, Todd. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. All of Todd's information will be below this video, but before we go, Todd, please do tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. We are Razor Ridge Leads. Been in the digital market. I've been in the digital marketing space since '07. We've been doing life insurance for almost 5 years now. We do SMS verified exclusive leads. We run a done for you program now. The done for you program, we set up and manage your own leads for you in your ad accounts, CRMs, everything's included, AI, all kinds of wonderful tools. So you can find us everywhere. Come hang out. I do free sales trainings every Thursday in our closed Facebook group. I've got free sales resources all over YouTube. I live, breathe, eat, and sleep sales. I love it. I read my first book in the sixth grade, and it's been a love affair ever since. So come
Yeah.
hang out with us. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, I love it. And by the way, yeah, listen to what Todd is just saying. He's got free resources, he's got groups, he's got free training. Hey, there's no excuse for not investing in yourself, right? So don't be sitting there going, well, my company hasn't invested in any training or whatever for me. Like, forget it. Nobody's ever going to care about you as much as you do. Hate to break the news. So go check out Todd and all his stuff. All right. All right, Todd. Have a good one. And you, thank you for watching and listening.